The sound of rain tapped against the windows, bringing a warm comfort to the old house in Summitville, Ohio. Martha Watson stood by the kitchen window, watching the hydrangeas in the backyard getting soaked by raindrops. Her blue eyes reflected the kindness and insight she had developed during her 30 years working as a nurse. "Oh my, look at the time," Martha sighed softly as she checked her watch. Her daughter April was due to arrive with her granddaughter Olivia soon. The table was already set with lemon tea and Martha's homemade blueberry muffins. Today, April and her husband Blake were scheduled to leave for a 6-month overseas assignment. The doorbell rang, and Martha hurried to answer it. When she opened the door, there stood April, tall and slender, dressed in a designer suit with her perfectly styled blonde hair protected from the rain by her upturned coat collar. "Mom, I'm sorry. We're a little late," April said, giving her mother a quick kiss. Behind her stood 12-year-old Olivia. Martha caught her breath at the change in her granddaughter. The bright, energetic Olivia she had seen at Christmas had faded. She was thinner now, with slumped shoulders, and her beautiful brown hair had lost its luster. "Olivia, say hello to your grandmother," April gently pushed her daughter's back. "Hello, Grandma," Olivia said in a small voice, keeping her eyes fixed on the floor. "Oh, Olivia. I'm so happy to see you." Martha approached her granddaughter and tried to give her a gentle hug, but felt Olivia's body stiffen. Still, she kept her smile and said, "Come on in. I've baked muffins." In the living room, Blake was already seated on the sofa. As an executive at an architectural firm, he never lost his confident demeanor. He had already abandoned his position at the IT company where he had met April, and was now successful at another company. He stood up and gave Martha a perfect smile. "Martha, you're looking as young as ever. Your beauty hasn't faded since you retired from nursing." Martha nodded slightly at her son-in-law's pleasantry. Blake's attractive appearance and sociable personality charmed many people. However, Martha had always felt uncomfortable with the cold glint in his eyes, especially when he looked at April and Olivia. "So, can you tell me the details of this overseas assignment again?" Martha asked as she poured the tea. Before Blake could answer, April began explaining quickly. "Blake's company won a big project in Singapore. I've also been tasked with launching a new business in the Asian region. We'll both be busy, so we thought it would be best to leave Olivia with you." Martha carefully observed her daughter's face. April's eyes showed signs of fatigue, and she seemed anxious despite her words. Over the past few years, April's phone calls had become less frequent, and family gatherings rarer. Martha had tried several times to express her concerns, but April always said, "I'm fine, Mom. Just busy with work," and changed the subject. "Olivia, would you like to see your room?" Martha gently asked her granddaughter. "I've prepared the sunniest room on the second floor for you." Olivia looked at her mother before nodding slightly. As Martha went up the stairs with her granddaughter, she was pained to see how much thinner Olivia's back looked than ever before. When they reached the room, Olivia sat quietly on the edge of the bed. Martha stood by the window, opening the curtains to show the view outside. "Look, you can see the big oak tree in the backyard, can't you? A family of squirrels lives there. In the morning, you can see them scurrying busily around the tree." Olivia looked toward the window, but her response was minimal. Martha sat down beside her granddaughter and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "What's wrong, Olivia? Is something bothering you?" Olivia looked into Martha's eyes for a moment. There was something unspoken in her gaze. But she quickly looked away and answered in a small voice, "Nothing, Grandma." Blake's voice echoed from downstairs. "We need to get going. Olivia, come down to say goodbye." Martha didn't miss the trembling of Olivia's body. At departure, April hugged Olivia tightly and said, "Be good. Don't cause your grandmother any trouble." Blake merely patted Olivia's head, but there was a stern light in his eyes that could be taken as a warning. Don't worry, Martha. Olivia is an easy child. I'm sure she'll enjoy her time with you. Martha smiled at Blake's words, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something important. After the car drove away, Martha and Olivia remained at the entrance. Martha gently placed her hand on her granddaughter's shoulder and said, "Well, it's just the two of us for a while now. You can tell me anything." Olivia just nodded silently. Morning sunlight streamed through Martha's kitchen window, creating a band of golden light on the table. Martha was making French toast, specially garnished with maple syrup and strawberries for Olivia. As she cooked, she waited for the sound of her granddaughter's footsteps, but no sound came from the stairs. "Olivia, breakfast is ready," Martha called gently toward the stairs. After a while, Olivia slowly came down the stairs. Her pajamas seemed to hang on her thin body like a ghost. "Good morning, Grandma," Olivia whispered. "Good morning, sweetheart. I made your favorite French toast." Martha placed a plate in front of Olivia and sat down across from her. Olivia picked up her fork but only poked at the toast without taking a single bite. "What's wrong? Doesn't it taste good?" Martha asked worriedly. Olivia shook her head slightly. "It looks delicious, Grandma." "Sorry. I'm just not hungry." Martha looked worriedly at her granddaughter's pale complexion. "Won't you try just a little? Your body needs nourishment." Olivia took a small bite, seemingly out of obligation, but that seemed to be all she could manage. The same pattern continued after breakfast, at lunch, and dinner. Olivia's plate remained virtually untouched each time. Even after several days, the situation didn't improve. Martha tried making chicken noodle soup and chocolate chip cookies, which used to be Olivia's favorites, but her appetite didn't return. "Olivia, if there's anything you'd like to eat, just tell me." "I'll make anything," Martha said, watching her granddaughter grow thinner. "Thank you, Grandma. But I'm fine." Olivia tried to smile, but her expression was sad. One night, Martha woke up to a strange sound. She sat up and listened. A faint crying sound was coming from Olivia's room. Martha hurried to her granddaughter's room. Quietly opening the door, she found Olivia curled up on the bed, shaking violently. She seemed to be having a nightmare. "Olivia, it's okay," Martha gently embraced her granddaughter. "Grandma's here." Olivia woke up and looked at Martha with terror-filled eyes. "Dad was..." she began to say, then suddenly closed her mouth and began crying again. "What about Dad?" Martha asked quietly, but Olivia just shook her head and said, "Nothing." The next morning, Martha called her daughter. It took a while for the international call to connect, but finally she heard April's voice. "Mom. Is everything okay?" April's voice sounded tense. "April, I'm a bit concerned. Olivia is hardly eating anything. And sometimes she cries in the middle of the night from nightmares," Martha said, not hiding her worry. After a moment of silence on the other end, April answered in a slightly stiff voice, "Oh, don't worry about that. It's just a temporary teenage phase. Olivia has always been a bit nervous. Before coming overseas, she lost some weight due to poor appetite, but the doctor said there was nothing wrong." "But, April..." "Mom, I'm sorry. I have to go into a meeting now. I'm counting on you with Olivia. I know you'll manage well." The phone suddenly disconnected. Martha stood holding the receiver for a while. April's response felt unnatural. Was there something she wanted to say but couldn't? At the end of that week, Martha received a call from Olivia's school. It was from the school nurse, Miss Parker. "Ms. Watson, I'm a bit concerned about Olivia. She felt ill during physical education class and is resting in the health room, but she's very weak. Also, she doesn't seem to interact with her friends. Martha immediately went to the school. Seeing Olivia lying in the health room, her heart ached. In just a week, her granddaughter had grown even thinner, with dark shadows under her eyes. Not eating isn't good for your body, Olivia, Martha said quietly in the car on the way home. Olivia continued looking out the window as she answered, I know. But I just can't. The next day, Martha took Olivia to see Dr. Carter, a pediatrician. After a thorough examination, no physical abnormalities were found. Physically, there doesn't seem to be any particular problem, Dr. Carter explained to Martha. However, this is clearly a symptom of loss of appetite due to psychological stress. Does Olivia have any worries or fears? Martha told him about Olivia's nightmares and how she avoided talking about her parents. Dr. Carter nodded thoughtfully and referred them to a psychologist. It may take time, but please watch over her until Olivia opens up. It's important for her to feel that you are a safe presence. Martha returned home and was lost in thought as she prepared dinner. From her many years of nursing experience, she sensed that something serious was hidden behind Olivia's symptoms. Silence fell over Martha's house on the Friday night of Olivia's third week since moving in. April had contacted them saying, I'd like to talk to Olivia on the phone with Blake over the weekend, and Martha had relayed this to her granddaughter. Olivia, your mom and dad will call tomorrow morning at 9. The moment she heard those words, the color drained from Olivia's face. Martha didn't miss this. What's wrong? Don't you want to talk to mom and dad? Olivia quickly shook her head. No, that's not it. However, at dinner that evening, Olivia was even less able to eat than usual. She just stirred the contents of Martha's homemade pot pie with her fork. Martha watched her granddaughter worriedly but didn't pressure her. You don't have to force yourself to eat. But if you get hungry, just let me know anytime. As the night deepened, Martha was reading a book in her bedroom. The clock had already passed 10, and the house was quiet. Suddenly, there was a gentle knock at the door. Come in. The door opened, and Olivia stood there like a small shadow. She was wearing white pajamas and tightly clenching her hands. Grandma, I need to talk to you, Olivia's voice trembled. Is that okay, now? Martha put her book aside and sat on the edge of the bed. Of course, Olivia. Come here. Olivia carefully entered the room and sat on the opposite edge of the bed. Keeping her distance from Martha, she hugged her knees. The moonlight shining through the window illuminated Olivia's pale face. Olivia, can you tell me what happened? Martha asked gently. Since you moved in, something's different. You're not the same as before. Has something difficult happened? Tears began to well up in Olivia's eyes. Dad. She choked on her words. Dad. Mom and I. Her words broke off, and Olivia suddenly broke down in tears. Martha didn't hesitate to move closer to her granddaughter and embrace her gently. At first, she felt Olivia's body tense, but eventually she leaned into Martha's chest. It's okay, Olivia. I'm on your side. No matter what happens, Grandma will protect you. Martha quietly rubbed her granddaughter's back, waiting for her to calm down. When Olivia's tears subsided a little, Martha offered her a tissue. Now, take your time. Can you tell me? Olivia took a deep breath and accepted the tissue with trembling hands. She stared out the window and began speaking in a small voice. Dad hits Mom when he gets angry. Hearing those words, Martha felt her heart skip a beat. She said nothing, waiting for Olivia to continue. At first, they were just arguing loudly. But about a year ago, Dad started pushing Mom and slamming her against the wall. Olivia's voice continued, trembling but persistent. 4 months ago, Dad came home drunk one night, and they had a big fight. Dad hit Mom. When I tried to stop him, Olivia gently stroked her arm. There was a fading bluish-purple bruise. Martha gasped. You were hit too. Martha's voice was quiet, but it contained anger. Olivia nodded. Dad apologized the next morning, but, since then, sometimes when he gets angry. Her words broke off in tears. Dad threatens, don't tell anyone, or you'll never see your mother again. Mom also says, this is a family matter, you must not talk to outsiders about it. Martha took her granddaughter's hand and held it gently. Her heart was full of anger and sadness, but right now, reassuring Olivia was the priority. But why aren't you eating? Is that also related to Dad? A new fear appeared in Olivia's eyes. Dad says I'm ugly if I gain weight. He says there will be punishment if I eat too much. She choked on her words. Dad says I have to be perfect. So, I became afraid to eat. Martha felt her body tremble with anger, but she tried hard not to show it. She gently cupped her granddaughter's face in both hands and looked straight into her eyes. Olivia, listen carefully. What you've just told me took a lot of courage. You've done nothing wrong. What Dad is doing is wrong. And Mom should have protected you. Confusion colored Olivia's eyes. Mom is scared too. Mom is always careful not to make Dad angry. But no matter what she does. Yes, Mom is scared too, Martha showed understanding. But this is a problem we can't solve by ourselves. We need help. Olivia's body tensed. The police. But Dad said if we told the police. Dad can't hurt you anymore, Martha said with a determined voice. I won't let him. We need to seek help to protect you and Mom. Martha hugged Olivia tightly. It's okay, Olivia. I'll make sure you're safe from now on. I promise. Olivia gradually relaxed in Martha's arms. Martha stroked her granddaughter's head and said quietly, sleep with Grandma tonight. And tomorrow, we'll do the right thing. After Olivia had calmed down and fallen asleep, Martha quietly slipped out of bed and headed to the living room. Her hands were shaking, but she was determined. She picked up the phone and dialed the police. Hello, I'd like to report domestic violence and child abuse. Martha's voice was calm, but her heart was beating fiercely. The next morning, 2 police cars were parked in front of Martha's house. Sunlight streamed into the living room, reflecting off the coffee cups on the table. Olivia sat next to Martha, facing Officer Rachel Morrison, a female police officer, and Jennifer Clark, a social worker dispatched from Child Welfare Services. Olivia, don't be afraid, Officer Morrison said gently. She was a veteran with 15 years of service and was trained to work with victims of domestic violence, especially children. I just want you to tell me what you've seen and experienced. Olivia gripped Martha's hand tightly and began to speak fearfully. Officer Morrison listened patiently, occasionally asking questions, and recorded everything. When Olivia described the first violent incident, her voice was shaking, but as the story progressed, she gradually regained her strength. Do you have any evidence? Ms. Clark asked Martha. Photos, messages, anything that shows traces of abuse? Martha shook her head. I don't have direct evidence. But Olivia still has bruises on her body. And her weight loss and mental state are clearly abnormal. Officer Morrison carefully photographed the bruises on Olivia's arm, and Ms. Clark took detailed notes about Olivia's recent behavior patterns. Have you contacted Mr. Blake Johnson and Mrs. April Johnson? Officer Morrison asked Martha. No, I haven't contacted them since last night. They're supposed to call at 9 this morning. Almost simultaneously, the phone began to ring. Martha hesitated for a moment, but seeing Officer Morrison nod, she picked up the receiver. Martha. Is Olivia up? Blake wants to talk to her, April's voice came through. Martha answered calmly, April, there are police officers and a social worker from Child Welfare Services here right now. Silence flowed on the other end of the phone. Then suddenly, Blake's angry voice thundered. What? What's going on? Did Olivia say something? Officer Morrison took the receiver from Martha and introduced herself. Mr. Johnson, I'm Officer Rachel Morrison from the Summitville Police Department. I strongly recommend that you and April return here immediately. There are serious allegations from your child. This is ridiculous. Blake's voice was filled with anger. She's lying. How can you believe a 12-year-old child? Officer Morrison responded calmly, Mr. Johnson, this is an official investigation. If you cooperate, you'll have the opportunity to clarify everything. April's panicked voice could be heard, Blake, calm down. We'll be back today. Officer Morrison, will cooperate. After the call ended, Martha sat next to Olivia to reassure her. It's okay, Olivia. No one can hurt you anymore. Later that day, a luxury car stopped in front of Martha's house. As Blake and April entered, 2 police officers were already there to greet them. April looked pale and tired, but Blake was in a perfect suit, with an expression of controlled anger. This is all a misunderstanding, Blake said as soon as he entered. I have never hurt my wife or daughter. Olivia is just lying out of teenage attention-seeking. In the living room were Martha, Olivia, Officer Morrison, Miss Clark, and newly joined Assistant District Attorney Michael Davis. The moment Olivia saw Blake, she sat behind Martha as if hiding. Listen well, Olivia, Blake said to his daughter in a stern tone. What you're saying will only hurt everyone in the family. Stop this nonsense right now. Mr. Johnson, please stop threatening your child, Assistant DA Davis intervened. At this point, we have Olivia's testimony and physical evidence. We need your cooperation. April finally spoke up. What evidence do you have? What did Olivia say? Ms. Clark approached April. Mrs. Johnson, shall we talk in another room? April hesitated, then looked at her husband. Blake directed a warning glance at his wife. However, April seemed to make up her mind, stood up, and followed Ms. Clark to another room. Officer Morrison continued to deal with Blake. Mr. Johnson, you need to accompany us to the police station for questioning on suspicion of domestic violence and child abuse. This is an insult. Blake raised his voice. I have a lawyer. All these ridiculous accusations will be dropped. The moment Blake stood up, Olivia, though trembling, leaned forward from Martha's arms. It's not a lie. Her voice was small but filled with strong determination. Dad hit me and Mom. I was always afraid. Blake's face turned red with anger. Be quiet. At that moment, a heart-wrenching scream was heard from the other room. Everyone turned around to see April coming out of the room, collapsing to the floor in tears. I can't take it anymore, she said in a trembling voice. Olivia is telling the truth. Blake has been abusing us for years. April rolled up her sleeves, showing multiple bruises she had been hiding. These are from last week. He always targets places that won't be seen by others. Blake rushed the overseas trip to avoid further suspicion. Blake was speechless for a moment but quickly changed his attitude. April, what are you saying? That was an accident, wasn't it? You fell down the stairs. Stop lying. April suddenly raised her voice. Her eyes were overflowing with anger and sadness that had been bottled up for a long time. You hit me. You threatened Olivia. You scared us, trying to make us do what you wanted. Assistant DA Davis signaled to the officers, who handcuffed Blake. Blake Johnson, you are under arrest on suspicion of domestic violence and child abuse. Blake tried to resist, but he was already being held by both arms by 2 officers. You'll regret this. I have power, he shouted as he was taken away. After he was let out, April staggered over to Olivia and hugged her daughter tightly. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mom couldn't protect you. Martha watched her daughter and granddaughter, quietly shedding tears. Her heart was a mix of anger, sadness, and relief. From her years of experience as a nurse, she knew the road to recovery would be difficult. But the first step had been taken. Officer Morrison placed a hand on Martha's shoulder. I'll explain the procedures from here. We'll issue a protective order for April and Olivia, and also arrange counseling. We can provide temporary shelter as well. Martha answered in a resolute voice, we don't need shelter. They will live here. I will protect them. Ms. Clark nodded. It will be a long journey. But today, we've taken a very big step. Outside the window, the police car carrying Blake drove away. 1 year later, the spring sunlight shone brightly through the windows of Martha's house. In the backyard, the blue flowers of the hydrangeas were beginning to bud, and new leaves were flourishing on the old oak tree. From the kitchen wafted the sweet aroma of pancakes cooking. Grandma, do we have enough maple syrup? Olivia's cheerful voice echoed from the stairs. Martha smiled and answered, yes, plenty. April, how's the coffee? Perfect, Mom. April came in from the garden and kissed her mother's cheek. A gardening glove was draped over her shoulder. I picked some wildflowers. The bluebells are so beautiful this time of year. The 3 gathered at the breakfast table. Olivia was plumper than before, with a healthy redness returned to her cheeks. She took a large pancake onto her plate and poured plenty of maple syrup over it. Nervous about your school presentation today? Martha asked her granddaughter. Olivia showed a confident smile. No, I'm all prepared. Mrs. Parker said my poem has a chance of winning the contest. April gently stroked her daughter's hair. Your poem is truly wonderful, Olivia. Your strength comes through in your words. A year had passed since that day. The lives of the 3 had changed dramatically. April had found a new job at a local company, and thanks to counseling, Olivia was gradually healing her emotional wounds. She now participated in the school's poetry club, using words to express her experiences and encouraging other children. Once a week, the 3 visited Dr. Miller, their therapist, for family counseling. At first, there were painful days filled with tears, but gradually they confronted the past and built new bonds. The verdict will be handed down this afternoon, April said quietly. Martha took her daughter's hand. Whatever happens, we're together. No one can hurt you anymore. Blake's trial had been long and harsh. He refused to admit his guilt until the end and fought with expensive lawyers, but the courageous testimony of April and Olivia, along with medical records and expert testimony, revealed his crimes. Blake was expected to receive a lengthy sentence. Do you think Dad is reflecting on his actions in prison? Olivia suddenly asked. Her voice contained not anxiety, but pure curiosity. April looked at her daughter. Honestly, I don't know. But that's not what we should be thinking about. We're moving forward with our lives. That's right, Martha agreed. What's important is that you both are safe and happy. After breakfast, the 3 headed to the park. In the warm sunshine of early summer, they spread out a large blanket and began preparing for a picnic. Nearby, squirrels played in the trees, and children ran around energetically. Olivia sat next to Martha, humming as she arranged sandwiches. She suddenly stopped her activity and looked at Martha with serious eyes. Grandma, I'm so glad I found the courage that day. Martha felt a warmth in her chest at her granddaughter's words. Yes, you were truly brave. But what if I hadn't spoken up? But you did, Martha said gently. The truth sometimes brings pain, but it's what sets us free. April sat on the blanket, joining the conversation between her mother and daughter. I should have found courage too. Earlier. Tears welled up in her eyes. We can't change the past, Martha said quietly. But the future is different. We'll continue to live together, treasuring each day. The three held hands and nodded silently. There were no dark shadows before them anymore. Instead, a path filled with light stretched ahead. Olivia had regained her girlish smile, April had rediscovered her confidence as a mother, and Martha had fulfilled her mission to protect her family. From afar, church bells rang, announcing the beginning of a new hour. Martha etched this moment in her heart. Any difficulty can be overcome with love and courage, that was the most important lesson she had learned from life.